And before I get into the panel discussion, I did just want to give one quick preamble on the topic of tech and innovation and why Chicago will rule the new decade. So many of you here today in this audience are entrepreneurs or are people who have been involved in entrepreneurship. It's a topic that's very critical to Chicago because Chicago is a city of entrepreneurs. And technology is an area for Chicago as a differentiator, is sometimes viewed as not really commonplace in people's lexicon. They think of industrial, service-oriented industries. They go back to what Mayor Daley talked about the other day at the Economic Club dinner when he referenced the City on the Brink articles from 1981, which referred to Chicago as a broken-down Rust Belt city with companies that weren't going to make it. Well, those articles were wrong, and they were wrong primarily because Chicago as a civic community pulled together and was able to create industries out of that Rust Belt area to become the capital of the Midwest and a global city. And one of the forces really driving change in Chicago is the tech revolution that will be talked about today. And it's going to happen in the next 10 years because it already has been happening. And JB and the distinguished panel here today, who we're honored to have as our guests, are going to be able to talk about a couple of the key factors driving the overall growth. We have a city whose policy with the former mayor, Mayor Daley, and current mayor, Mayor Emanuel, are very business friendly, that allow for a healthy civic environment related to technology, which distinguishes us from others. We also have customers here in Chicago, Fortune 50 companies like Aon and United Airlines and Abbott, Northern Trust and Allstate. These are companies that can buy the services of tech companies. We have incredible research. Many of you are parts of Big Ten universities or other organizations that churn out incredible research and distinguish us from other cities across the world and certainly across the United States. And lastly, we have serial entrepreneurs in this city, and this makes a big difference. This is not Chicago 1990. This is Chicago 2011, where we have significant exits that have occurred with companies that have been bought and companies that are part of a crest of a new renaissance of entrepreneurship that are going to sweep this city and sweep the region. And for that, we're very grateful for many of you who've been part of it.
Echo Global Logistics, SPSS, CC Information Systems, Navtech, Allscripts, Orbitz, Certified, Tickets Now, Q Interactive, Click Commerce, Extended Care Information Network, Interworkings, Groupon, FeedBurner, all are $100 million or billion-dollar plus technology companies that were started or grown here in Chicago. So we have a vast pool of talented and highly successful technologists who are a growing force in this city, and you see 4 of them here today. Perhaps more importantly, entrepreneurs at each of the companies that I mentioned has continued on and started a new company, or sometimes 2 or 3. A successful serial entrepreneur, which is something Jim mentioned, was something unusual in Chicago 10 years ago. But today, you find them nearly everywhere you look. Speaking as a venture capitalist, I'm looking for the most experienced founders that I can find who know what success looks like. And among the most important ingredients of a burgeoning startup community are creativity, leadership, and capital. And today, I'm pleased to present to you 4 founders who are part of the revolution that is the startup community here today. I want to start today by asking you, Eric, a question. You're a serial internet entrepreneur here in Chicago, and you've sold 2 companies. And you've had serious offers to move out to Silicon Valley, rumored that you were offered a major position at Twitter as well. Why did you choose to stay here? What is it about Chicago that made you want to build your new company here?
Yeah, we started FeedBurner. Me and 3 other co-founders started FeedBurner in 2003, and by late 2004, we were flying into San Francisco for acquisition talks with a few different companies, and I was coming in for a landing there, and I looked out the window and I was like, I thought for sure, you know what, my life's going to change. I'm moving out here. We're moving out here. You know, they're going to acquire this, and this is just going to be my new life. And turns out after we talked and there wasn't the right time for something like that, came back and I started actually growing the company here in Chicago until we grew it to about 35 people, and then it was acquired by Google in 2007. And we had a chance, because there was a nice Google office in Chicago, we got to stay here in Chicago. And and that was first of all, that was an amazing opportunity to be able to stay here in the city. And then worked for Google for a couple of years, and then came out and was now starting to think about what's next. And is it something out there? Is it something here? But the reason why it never really, after that one approach into San Francisco, never entered my head again is because you don't need to for an internet startup company anymore. It was kind of that way, like 7, 8 years ago. You kind of needed that community out there. It wasn't as distributed as it is now, and now you can really start these companies anywhere you want. And Chicago, like you've mentioned several times, is this idea of now that you've got serial entrepreneurs, people who have done this before, who have the experience of growing these companies here. You can draw upon that experience, and we've got this talent pool here that is fantastic. And just not to play on kind of Midwestern stereotypes, but when I'm looking to hire tech developers, there's no problem finding them, and generally they're much more loyal. They're not always looking over their shoulder for some other opportunity. As once they've bought into the idea, they stay with it. And I mean, they're hardworking all over the place, but there's just now a breadth and depth of talent here in Chicago that there really is no reason that you have to go anywhere else, in my opinion.
We see business plans every day now, and I think that I would tell 99% of the entrepreneurs who are going to try to do this to build their company to be bought, and that's just the likely outcome. And so one of the things you learn about that is not to take too much money so that an exit that's shorter than you might have expected can't be beneficial for everybody. So one is to always be willing to be for sale, because I just think that you can't be umbilically connected to any business. You have to be ready to go on and do the next one. And so that's one thing that I think has changed. The other thing is to the point about virtuality. That used to be like, oh, that means you don't have a substantial company. You don't have a real business because everything is virtual. Well, as astonishing as it is, you can design a business today where your workforce are volunteers, your marketing is done for you, your communication and computing cost is all farmed out or rented, and you end up with a business plan that's embarrassing for the entrepreneur. And it's hard to embarrass an entrepreneur. But the margins are like 90% or something, and you say, all right, I'll cut it in half. It's still 50%. And those are the nature of the businesses that these new technologies and these new sort of third-party partners can supply to businesses that just never existed before.
First, I think it's important to keep in mind that just because you have an idea, it doesn't automatically mean you have a company. You might not even have a product. You might have a feature of a product. And the only way to do this is to actually pressure test it with people who do know. So before I started the company, I conducted 50 informational interviews with people who were going to be potential buyers of this product, and using your business school and other networks. People love to talk about their views. Nobody ever appears to ask them, and those 15 minutes would often become a half an hour. It was really valuable, and I changed a lot of assumptions. So that is the first thing, is to pressure test the idea. It is too easy today to take $10,000 and start a company. And so that's one. The second is, it's an old adage, but cash is still the lifeblood of the firm. And it's important for the entrepreneur to send that message to everybody they hire. And there's a symbolic aspect of this. And so you travel cheap, you stay cheap. You don't need to stay at the Ritz or even the Hyatt. You can.
Oh. Well, maybe the Hyatt.
You earn your way to the Hyatt. So you can stay at the Hampton Inn. You're going to be back there to sleep at night. And last time I checked, the ceilings at the Ritz and the Hampton Inn looked exactly the same. And so you can travel cheap. It's important to set that tone. And my third piece of advice would be, it takes a while to build a great firm. And so you need to be at it. Lace up your shoes 24/7, you're going to be at it. But be ready to pivot when circumstances start to reveal something different to you, so you can't fall in love with the idea. Be very ready for outside input, but you got to stick with it. I don't follow the whole idea of lifestyle entrepreneurship. You're in this business to scale, and it's a full contact sport. So
Eric?
Oh, I have one more thing to say, which is learn how to sell something. If you haven't sold something, don't get into this business. Be the second in command to a guy who can sell something, or a gal who can sell something. So,
I have to tell you, this community, when you have an idea and you are passionate, which I think are two things that are uniquely Chicago, substance, authenticity, and passion. When you walk in the doors of one of these Chicago companies and you talk about what you're doing and how you might be able to help these companies, they give you a shot. Who would have known that Northern Trust, LaSalle Bank back in the day, Diners Club out on Bryn Mawr by the airport would have been technology innovators, but they took a chance. We just named them this year, along with several industry analysts, pioneers in the world of technology and sales enablement. So I got to tell you, if you do it well and you're passionate, and it's not just a fly-by-night technology idea that we'd love you to sort of connect with, the city will wrap its arms around you, and there's great customers, loyal ones.